Hi, folks. This is Mountain Man coming to you from parts unknown. Well, I set up a stream and it vanished off my screen. My thumbnail, title, everything. I had to redo it and come up live just with my orange head. Yeah, but anyway, we've got a lot to talk about as usual. I was watching the interview with Tom Holman he was given, and he's expressing some frustration and hinting very strongly that he's going to be taking action soon with these people that are resisting and outright aiding and abetting. And that's why I put harboring fugitives in my title. So a lot of things are going to be coming to a head, and I'm just wondering, whose move is it now? I mean, who is Trump is going to keep making big moves multiple times a day, every day. The deep state is disoriented, stunned, shock and awe has taken effect, and it's ongoing. And they haven't fashioned a response. You couple that with Trump putting out what people are referring to now as a dead man switch. Basically instructions if something happens to him, what would happen to the perpetrators of such a vile act. So, yeah, everything seems, and I believe is in control, but there's a lot bubbling and a lot going on. What was Tucker Carlson going in the White House for? I'm wondering. Going to set up maybe some announcements or an interview that is going to make people's eyes pop open? I don't know what it would get to make people's eyes pop open. Mine's been popped open over and over again for years and years, along with many of my listeners. Hi, Sissy, how you doing? Todd, how you doing? Island Girl, Darla, Mac, Benjamin, Miss Mendersu, Robin, Flannel Cheese, Cola, nice to see you. Wayne's giving me a thumbs up, good. All right, Ronald's here. Raven's Wings here. Pappy Two Bears, nice to see you. Tracy, David, who did I miss? Did I miss anybody? No, I don't think so. All right, Araceli is here. Nice to see you. All right. Well, I'm talking about eyeballs popping open. Like, when are people going to be motivated? Where's the outrage? We just don't see it. Maybe it's good we don't see outrage. Maybe it's good we see more of a disgust. What was that Fox News poll? Or was it CNN poll? I'm not sure. Like 31% are favorable view of the Democrats. And that was the day prior to the DOGE disclosure about what's going on with USAIDs. Tennessee, how you doing? So I'm sure it's even less now. Yeah, Cola. People saying Trump's a deep state. Well, when you get into discussions about Israel and Gaza, people give it the side eye. And, what Trump does is he plops something down on the table, a deal that is most favorable, strongest position for him. This is what I want to do, and goes from there. So he said, we're going to own it. What he meant by that was cleaning up Gaza, own the leveling and clean out of the site. But he said it would be an international destination. And that has left everybody stunned, where they don't have a response. The early questions from the media, they're not going to ask questions unless they're told what question to ask. We know now, most halfway informed people know now that the media is controlled. Not only the stories they put out, but the questions they ask. And what was the quickest one they could come up with was, is it worth one Marine's life to clean Gaza? And he did not say troops. He did not say combat troops. So I went over that a little bit last night. But what he's doing is he's given an opportunity, and he listed some nations that can participate. I think he's envisioning a Middle Eastern United Nations, but the U.S. would participate as owners of the site. You could probably have a conference center there. You have Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Qatar is willing to play ball. You could get Syria in there. Then you'd have a hard head like Erdogan saying, Turkey's got to have a say so. We want a chair at the table. So if you give people a notion that if they don't participate, they're going to lose out, they're going to come running, and they'll all be sitting at that bargaining table. And that's what he's doing. But he's in control. Okay? We have wars going on where both sides, conflicts going on where both sides are using our weapons. They're using that we paid for. They end up getting stolen. They end up on the black market. A lot of times by our own officials. And you have A fighting B, and A has our weapons, and B is using our weapons. So I bring that up because some of the reporters are saying, why should we spend all that money? What the hell do they think we've been doing in the Middle East? Making money? So, we just said, hi, Todd, how you doing? Debbie's here. How you doing, Debbie? Nice to see you. So anyway, Trump gave two addresses this morning and finished them by 10 o'clock this morning. And we were all thinking to ourselves, many of you have said it, mentioned it in the chats, that today was the 17th day of his presidency. What's going to happen on the 17th day? And you know what? Looking at on the surface, it was a pretty quiet day. Unless you're part of the New World Order. Because what did Trump do? What did he pretty much dedicate this day to? He dedicated it to God and to Christ. interchangeable, one, same as the other. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. He said it for the world to hear, that a nation without God is nothing, worthless. And as we know, watching the goals of these people we refer to different names, a cabal or a deep state or whatever, God's the last thing on their list. Whereas Trump put it first, put God first. So, yeah, I think that was a big moment. He's let the world know that we're going to be involved. We're going to defend our interests, whether they like it or not. But like Trump said, they're going to like it. Better like it. So, to me, that message that he told the world today marked his 17th day. So, the purpose of his presidency, how this nation was founded, is the primacy of respecting God. So, as I said, the opponent does exactly the opposite. No respect for life. Turns out from just that U.S. aid money, we're finding out so many things that are going to offend the sensibilities of many people. We were funding abortions in other nations. We were funding transgendering and, as Trump called it yesterday, the mutilation and castration of children. None of those practices are acceptable in a nation that is founded as Judeo-Christian, or however people want to describe it, or any other religion that's accepted on the face of the earth. Hinduism, Buddhism, on down the line. Those things, the things I mentioned, just those two things that are heavily impact our progeny, our legacy as human beings. There's nothing more important than our children. And our money was being surreptitiously used to end human life. And if a child was fortunate enough to take their first breath, for nefarious adults to experiment, or for whatever reason, their own neuroses, their own sinful thoughts, permanently harm a child and prevent a child from becoming a parent themselves. Because what was one of the first things Adam and Eve were told? We all know, don't mess with the fruit of good and evil. God didn't give a whole lot of instructions, because he gave us what we need to make the right decisions: a good brain, a reason, the ability to reason, empathy for others, logic, things that the animal kingdom do not have. But he said, be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. And he told Abraham his progeny would be as the stars in the sky. In other words, get busy. So those two things that I talked about, ending human life before birth and maiming afterwards, is in direct conflict with that. So people can say, "Oh, you're paranoid, or you're conspiracy theorist, or whatever." But when you sit there and think about Bill Gates talking about depopulation, you read the Georgia Guidestones that formerly stood in Georgia, no longer standing, limiting the population of the world. It's not that far of a stretch to understand what's going on. But we're coming to a point. Okay, when you do a job, when you got to go straighten something out or repair something, big building or whatever, the first phase is what we used to refer to as discovery work. Discovery work. You go in and you see, okay, you need mortar replacement, you need wiring, this needs to be demoed and rebuilt. You make a list of everything that needs to be done. I think a lot of that discovery work was done during Trump's first term. And a plan of action has been being worked on, prepared over the last 4 years. But like I said, and Trump has reiterated, everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the face. That's a quote from Mike Tyson. So there's changes, there's pauses, there's new directions, tweaking. But I am firm in what I say is that the end goal is transparency and prosecutions. So with Tom Homan today, his patience running low, it's making me wonder, when are we going to see prosecutions? What level will we go to? Will we do one thing at a time? Like my father used to say, you Swiss cheese it. You put a hole here, you put a hole there, and you keep Swiss cheesing it till you get everything done. I remember Trump also saying, wait for the corruption. And the corruption will come. At some point, it's going to come. That was after they asked him, what about Biden's pardons of everybody? And so we've also noted that Biden didn't pardon himself. We don't even know if that's a possibility. If he's able to pardon himself. But then I said, well, Trump might, with the presidency, say, well, it's obvious for history's sake that it's universally recognized that Biden was non compos mentis. Let it go at that. You don't set a precedent of prosecuting a former head of state, a former president. And maybe that would be an acceptable outcome and go from there. Excuse me. That certainly was the route that Chief Justice John Marshall took when they impeached Aaron Burr, a former vice president who shot Alexander Hamilton. Anyway, the way he oversaw the impeachment of Aaron Burr, he used some judicial finesse to protect our young republic from starting off with the prosecution of a head of the executive branch. Protected one of the branches of our government. And it was the right thing to do. It was a good move. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I was thinking would be the approach with Biden. He was used not to prosecute him personally and sully the office. Although the deep states had no compunction about sullying the office with Richard Nixon, he ended up being the only president to ever resign from the presidency. They saw no compunction about sullying the presidency by assassination. We at least know at least of JFK. But how about McKinley? How about the attempt on Reagan? How about Lincoln? So I thought that's the way he would go, non compos mentis. Then when they asked him about, what do you think about Joe signing up with a talent agency? Trump acted surprised. Well, maybe he was. But he said he had bigger things to worry about than that. Bigger things to worry about than that. So I guess, he wouldn't say something like that for no reason. Maybe he was saying that his mental ability was at the point where he wouldn't be able to perform or deliver any type of talent, or he would, maybe the hammer will drop on the former president. But the other thing you could do and protect the office at the same time is to go ahead and prosecute what happened in 2020. Fraud vitiates everything. No, we are not prosecuting a former president. We're prosecuting an imposter. An imposter. Somebody who had no business in the office. And the other thing Trump alluded to, I don't know if you all caught it this morning, about a third term. Did y'all catch that? Hi, television shows. How you doing? Finding Dory. How are you? Yeah, 40,000 have accepted resignation. But that's a drop in the bucket. There's 2 million of them. What's the percentage? 40,000 of 2 million. And you know what? It's probably the smart ones you want to keep that can go out and do something else. But it'll take 8 months of their pay and move on to bigger and better things. So, what do you think he meant? Well, he said some people say a third term is possible. But then he went on, another subject. I was thinking the irony of it, because we know he has that letter from Nixon that he had hanging in his Oval Office the first term. And he met Nixon. I don't know if he has that letter hanging in the Oval Office this time around. But people say they're trying to pass an amendment that would allow someone to serve up to 3 terms if not all 3 were consecutive, namely brought back by popular demand after skipping a term, which is, de facto unique to Trump's situation. But then I was thinking to myself, J.D. Vance is really popular. What if circumstances arose such that, let's just say, within a year, look what Trump's done in 17 days. What do you think he's going to get done in a year? What if, for whatever reason, before the year's up, I'm resigning? I have full faith and confidence in J.D. Vance. And there's a wingman waiting, or wingwoman, to take J.D.'s place as vice president. And Trump says, I'm 79. I've been attacked. I served president for 4 years. I was under attack constantly, daily, day and night for 4 years. I've moved mountains my first year. I'm going to take a little break. What's to stop him? Like he said, I didn't need this. Remember how he said Jimmy Carter is the happiest man because Biden is even worse than Jimmy Carter. So Jimmy Carter can't be called the worst president anymore. Well, Trump could say, you can't point at Nixon and say that he's the only president ever to resign, because I did too. See you in 36 months, because I'm going to run again. What do you think would happen then? Would that scenario I just told you, would there be anything to prevent him from running again, since he only served 1 year of a term? I don't know. Just some musings on my part. But I think every day that goes by, and every day that he completes a task, this nation is stronger. And so, yeah, I'm seeing what Debbie wrote. Trump, the last president, for the book people were writing. And the truth will be there as to why he was the last president. I'm just musing to myself. Just musing. Or, God forbid, there may be some health issue that could resolve itself, and he could come back. I don't know. But he certainly had, I don't know if it's to troll the left, but he certainly has many times put out that third term possibility. Yeah, television shows, 2 more justices. That could happen very quickly. That could happen very quickly. Nobody expected Kennedy to resign. As far as I'm concerned, he resigned in disgrace because he was the deciding vote on granting same-sex marriage, a ridiculous notion that has never been recognized by any civilized society. Name one. So he just resigned out of the blue after that. I believe that was his last case that he wrote an opinion on, I believe. I could be wrong. But somebody may have walked up to him and said, you've done enough. You're out. Because Clarence Thomas has said, same-sex marriage needs to be revisited. It is not the same notion as adoption. It's not an ideal. In emergency, okay. But you always try for as natural a family structure as possible for a child. For the child to be with his mother, natural mother. If that can't be, then it's the natural father. If that can't be, you find grandparents or aunts, uncles, or whatever you can find. If that can't be, you find a nice couple that have been vetted, male and female, to be raised in a natural state. I was watching JLR Investigates. I've told you all about his channel. And he was talking about another kook that got in trouble. He was planning on harming Mr. T or harming members of DOGE. And we have this rash of violent acts, not all of them, but a vast majority. And we've gone over them as far as school events, you know what I mean? Mass pew-pew. Well, this guy considers himself a female. He had gotten in trouble for setting the roof of his own car on fire, supposedly demonstrating. I forget when that was, about a month ago or so, protesting something in DC, well, or 2 weeks ago or something like that. And now he got in trouble for trying to infiltrate government offices with the intent to harm whoever he could. He even told the police during his interrogation that he was going to try to ram Trump's car and then attack him with a blade if he got the opportunity. So I showed you on my way out last night the protests with the Palestinian flags, masks, pre-printed signs. I'm sure if you checked into it, you'd find gift cards for payment, transportation prearranged for these leftists that are River to the Sea gang, anti-Jewish, anti-Semite protests. You got this, what's starting to be reported on, that Andy Ngo has been compiling a lot of information on, is this transgender cult that is going around pretty much hunting people and assassinating people. And they got one of the founders, what are they called, Zizzers or Zeemers or something like that, got it or she and it in jail. Then you got all these Marjorie, or what's her name? What's her name with the big mouth? Anyway, you got all these usual suspect liberals going out and calling for violence in the streets. I had a picture of him for my thumbnail. She got hair like James Brown. That's what Bill O'Reilly said, and that's how he lost his show. Not Marjorie Taylor Greene. I was misspeaking when I said another shim, Joshua. That's what I went to school where nuns were teaching. They called them shims instead of hippies. Mad Maxine Waters. Thank you, Miss Menderson. Maxine Waters screaming for people to do something in the streets. Chuck Schumer, all these people. But there's no coalescence where it's getting traction. But that's not to say it won't. I believe the Trump administration's plan is to continue plunging forward. And it causes mayhem on the left, but it gives comfort to the center and the right. But while they are stunned, unable to respond coherently in their propaganda, unable to assemble a resistance in the judiciary branch or to do anything more than that piddly little attempt at impeachment in Congress, keep pounding away. Keep dropping stuff on them while they're off balance. And it's going to be that much more they have to overcome. But what they're bringing upon themselves is temper tantrums in their body politic. They're having their theatrical temper tantrums in the guise of defending democracy. But their constituents are just going to spin off into the ozone and end up like this one that just got in his car, drove, I believe, from up on one of the northern states, like Massachusetts or something, all the way down to Florida to do something. He didn't even know what. He just knew he wanted to hurt people. That's dangerous, because there are thousands like him that are dysphoric, off balance, unfocused, and frustrated because of these rejections of this dysphoric philosophy. So I'm thinking with Tom Homan, he said, I know about the leak. I'm pretty sure I listened to that interview with twice. Did you all get the same? Hi, Roland. How you doing? Um, did you all get the same message from Holman that he said, I know who did the leak and I'm going to take care of that today? That somebody in his organization is tipping people off on operations, which is big trouble for whoever's doing it. But I got the notion that he said he knew who did it and he was going to take care of it today. So we may hear something about a traitor. I don't know. Did you all get that? If you get a chance, Mr. Sue, listen to the. I think I might have it downloaded where he voiced his frustration and said he was going to take care of that. But he said that if they keep it up, they're going to end up in handcuffs. Justice for All heard it. So he did say he knew who he figured it out where the leak was and was going to take care of it, address it. So that governor that said he was hiding somebody in his garage backpedaled and said that he was talking euphemistically or, I don't know, that he wasn't literally hot. He chickened out. But you know what? That excuse might not be good enough because if he really was, I think Ullman's going to go after him. And yeah, I see Pritzker's name. Roland says Pritzker's another one. Yeah, television shows. So that's where we might see the first moves towards prosecutions. Then there's a judge supposedly that ordered the payments to continue about this U.S. aid business, AIDS. But that might not be worth the paper it's written on. And I didn't see anybody in the Trump administration getting bent out of shape about any judge. Whoops. I put that on the screen back. Said, yeah, he's so corrupt and dirty, allegedly. So I am like everybody else. I'm looking at everything Trump says. I'm looking at what's going on. And the thing that surprises me, pleasantly surprises me, is about how ineffectual the opposition is to what Trump is doing. The executive order he signed yesterday was unequivocal. Being against it is indefensible. And what I'm talking about is keeping men out of women's sports, also calling it fraud if you have on your visa a gender other than your birth gender. 6 months ago, 3 months ago, an executive order like that, we would have viewed it as hitting like a stick of dynamite, that it would have caused an explosion in the media, action from Congress, court orders, and all this stuff. But it went by as quietly as you could have ever thought. No big condemnations from the spew. No stories, sob stories on CNN. They gave up without a whimper, and that is one of their pillars of their new world thoughts and notions. Hegseth ending Gay Pride Month celebrations of any kind in the military. They're packing their bags. How many is it? 14,000? Right now, they're out of the military. It almost seems like that part of it is too easy. I'm sure people are going to sue. But guess what? They have to find their own money. Guess what? A lot of their money has been cut off because of DOGE. These lawyers that are conducting this lawfare, they're not going to do it for nothing. So we know these media outlets have been making money off of the taxpayer, surreptitiously. Politico was the one that's brought it by Trump himself, and also by Miss Levitt at the press conference, called them out to their face. Politico. They're the ones I said a month ago. They're the only news organization I follow on Twitter, because it seems to me that's where the narrative starts. They got a lot of exposure for such a little operation, but they always come out with a talking point. Seems like I was right. So the question now is, how many attorneys have been getting money from USAIDs to fund this lawfare? How many other entities have been getting money? We know that they've been also involved in shutting down channels. I've been suspended. I had one channel blown out of the water here on YouTube. I've been suspended for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, multiple times. My little peanut channel, for something you couldn't even find in a 2 hour, hour and a half long broadcast, that they said I said wrong. Because an operative funded and backed by USAIDs put the bad finger on me. Me and hundreds of other creators walking the chalk and watching everything they say. I want to know, these channels like Midas Trash Network, did they get some money? The Young Turks, Dopey David Pakman, some of the other idiots I've talked about, Harry Sisson, Zuckerberg gave a full confession. He's one of these types, you know, the old saying, And when they used to interrogate you, they'd slap you to make you talk. Well, you got to slap Zuckerberg to shut him up. He's been talking so much about what they did to him. They threatened his business. Who knows what the public doesn't know what they threatened him with. And that's why Facebook was kicking people off. I was kicked off Facebook I don't know how many times. They called it Facebook jail, remember? What did they find out about Jack Dorsey? What they do to him to take down Donald Trump's account? Unheard of. Taking down the President of the United States Twitter account. Who was behind that? So as I mentioned earlier that I was listening to Rudy Giuliani's broadcast, and he was talking about discernment as far as punishment. And at the time, he was talking about FBI agents. He said, a lot of them, I don't think they need to be prosecuted, but they just don't have what it takes to be an FBI agent because they didn't exercise proper judgment. Like going to arrest Roger Stone carrying machine guns. He said, I can't see prosecuting them, but I can say that they don't have the judgment, the good enough judgment or moral fortitude to continue as agents if they carried out an order like that. Going to somebody's house with machine guns. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because there is going to be decisions have to be made about a lot of people. I used to be friends with one creator. As a matter of fact, the overboard talk is what got me into doing these broadcasts. Throwing a bucket of water on the overboard talk. And by overboard talk, I mean doing broadcasts where you say, whatever sheriff took money from a Sorosio affiliated NGO, do a citizen's arrest on that sheriff because he's guilty of treason. A prosecutor, get everybody together and have a civil courtroom and find them guilty of treason and do a citizen's arrest. Crazy talk. Well, a year's gone by, and according to 11.3 laws of war, we can do a military takeover of the Biden administration after a year's been up. Oh my, remember that talk? Yeah, I've been having problems with my buttons. But anyway, it culminated in a parting of ways when I turned the video on that had Klaus Schwab in it. And this particular creator was saying we had a duty to find him and pull a Luigi on him, even though Luigi wasn't in the picture back then. You know what I'm talking about. Not a bad person, but a person so frustrated with the lies, so frustrated with the manipulation that they started going overboard in their brain. And I called them up and I said, take that damn video down because you're going to end up in jail over it. I didn't tell, I've never told the story to this extent, but it happened. Can you imagine posting something on Utizzle, exhorting people to go do something like that? What do you think would happen to? But that people get themselves in such a state that they don't use discernment. Not a sign of a good leader. Not somebody you would want running the free world, grabbing everybody and taking them to the nearest tree with a rope because they took a donation from somebody you didn't like. So I'm bringing this up because we're entering a phase where there's going to have to be decisions about retribution. Levels of retribution. And I found it encouraging that Rudy Giuliani was broaching that with his audience about FBI agents that have been behaving badly, exercising too much of a show of force, going out on assignments that they should know was beneath the offices of the FBI. And they should be relieved of their duty, not thrown in prison. That's what they did to J6ers. We can't be like them. We've got to be better than them. But we do have to exercise retribution. There are debts owed to society for the harm that's been done. So this is where we take our minds to, since everybody talks about Department of Defense laws of war, mens res, actus res, levels of culpability, intentions when they were doing things, their level of knowledge, situational awareness, knowingly doing things wrong, their level of culpability as far as their authority, their level of authority. But what would be the right time for that? Or is it going to be what I think Trump was hinting to us? Don't worry, they'll keep doing it, and we're on the side. We got the stick now. We're in charge now. Because ever since Nixon, the saying has been, "It's the crime isn't as bad as the cover-up. It's the cover-up that gets you." So, oh, I see, Debbie. Debbie has an interesting take. Yeah. Anyway, this is a Very unique moment. I mean, it's not a huge period of time, this phase that we're in. This is, historically speaking, a moment, not a year long or 5 year long situation. This is coming down to a moment. And a culmination. What did Trump refer to it as? Circuitous. Culmination that we got to get right. We got to get it right for the eyes of history. We've got to get it right for the nation's future, for the future of civilization. We can't go overboard, and we can't do so little as to have no effect. We got to get it just right. And that's a good word, just. It has to be just, as in justice, just right. So it's going to be interesting to see the moves that happen next. Because I think the ball is in the deep state's court. Trump is driving the ball to their goal. They're on the defense. And Trump is covering the yards, or if you want to play soccer, he's kicking the ball downfield, heading towards their goal. What are they going to do? Well, they've already been lured in, Debbie. They've already been lured in. It's not just money, it's power. It's power's the main thing. Money is just a means for power. I know it's the root of all evil, but that's what it gives you everything. It's a tool. It gives you self-gratification. It can give you power over people, buy you anything you want. So these people are going to lose their power. They've already lost it. They're hanging on to shadows of power. I'm looking at Marco Rubio, what a key player he is, and how adroitly he's handling his responsibilities. My thumbnail had a picture of Maxine Waters with her face all crazy looking, and it says EDS, Elon Derangement Syndrome. So you're going to have this spread where they can't focus on a target like they did with Trump. Trump was their singular target, and they spent every bit of ammunition they had. Now they're shooting blanks. They're regurgitating old, discredited stories, trying to find a flaw. How could you do a story that berates Trump about protecting women in women's sports? You would have to really be creative to come up with anything to put a bad light on that, and they can't do it. Who can go on TV and say, this is awful that they won't allow operations on kids? Nobody. They got nothing. But you have Elon exposing everything in DOGE. You have Marco Rubio going down to Panama, slapping them around, coming back with what we want. And also, the State Department is in charge of DOGE. Marco Rubio. So they can take pot shots at Elon all they want. Rubio's calling the shots at Mr. Trump, President Trump's direction. So there are at least 3 different targets. They can't focus on any of them. Public opinion is strongly with Trump. Even after everything they did to Trump, he started off, everybody liked him. Elon Musk started off, everybody liked him. Before Marco Rubio had his little dust up with Trump, everybody liked him. They're hitting a brick wall with their propaganda. So Trump pointed out that this scandal that is being uncovered with U.S. aid, with an S, is the biggest crime in history. That is a big statement, because we thought 2020 was the biggest crime in history. 2020 would have never happened if it wasn't for the crimes being committed, the financial crimes, and the illegal psychological warfare campaign that was financed through USAIDs. So that's what makes this the biggest crime. What are y'all talking about? What are y'all talking about? Yeah, Adam Schiff is the next one. Adam Schiff is the next on deck, I believe. What about Adam Schiff? What about John Podesta? Marsha Blackburn is not letting go of the Epstein files. Hopefully, the time period for the public to be able to digest and retain all the information that's coming out. One thing I was worried about is information overload where people would tune out. Timing is very important. So these stories are being put out and talked about, giving people enough time to get the word out for people to digest. Wait a minute. Our money is being blown and wasted on literally ungodly things, and being used to manipulate our friends and neighbors psychologically. Once that sinks in, and I believe the ability for people to digest and retain information is higher than it's ever been. I mean, in the old days, usually by the time a newspaper turned yellow, people forgot whatever the heck was inside that newspaper, even though they read it. But now, people are much more adept at collating and retaining information and sharing information. So, with Marsha Blackburn coming out today, I haven't heard her since the hearings discuss the Epstein files. So she's taken a break from that for about 5 days or roughly a week, but she's popped up again talking about the Epstein files. So is that going to be the next disclosure to come out? Is the cherry going to be declassifying the assassinations of Martin Luther King, RFK, and JFK, and maybe even information about what happened to Trump on 2 occasions? Is that going to be, because that was supposed to be 6 weeks from the time Trump signed a document. So we got what, about a month? What's going to be let out during this month? Pam Bondi has got a stack on her desk of suspects and cases, brand new, as far as being disclosed to the public, that the public doesn't even know about, but are finding out every day. The other thing that we've talked about at length, and I talked about 17 posts, right? And I talked about the Inspector General. Trump fired 17 Inspector Generals because they weren't doing their job. We're told about a stealth bomber, a Punisher. 8 letters in the name. Remember that? How many of you remember talking about a person with 8 letters in her name? And we thought, Bill Barr, Sessions, right? 8 letters. Horowitz, right? And there was going to be some booms. Did you ever hear of a cat that would aggravate you in the middle of a talk to go outside when it's dark and cold out? Well, I have one just like that. Better go out, not stare at the, there, get out of here. There she goes. All right. Oh boy, she's either staring at the crack in the door or staring me right in the face. Makes me nervous, so I let her out. But anyway, so we've been thinking, remember the 8-letter name? I said Horowitz, Sessions, Bill Barr. Who else? Or did I mention in those names who's going to be the stealth bomber? Angela said Ratcliffe. Does it have to be an Inspector General? I don't think so. I think it's just somebody with, it's a good guess, Angel. Who is going to be the stealth bomber? Who's going to be the Punisher? Excuse me, I have a sip of my coffee. Speaking of which, I have a link in the description for Buy Me a Coffee if anybody wants to support the channel. And I appreciate a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you don't like what I'm saying. Ha ha ha. Newsom, you think he's going to be the Punisher, Roland? I think he's going to be the Punishee. But it is. That's that's 7 letters. Tracy said, no, it's got to have 8 letters. Horowitz has 8 letters. Sessions has 8 letters. Bill Barr, I'm just talking names we bantered about over the years. Pam Bondi, is that 8 letters? It sure is. Maybe that's what's going to happen? Is she going to open up sealed indictments that have been put together by, there's one other out of, where's he out of? Utah. Who's out of Utah, folks? Who's out of Utah? He didn't get fired either. He's an inspector general. You had Horowitz, and who will get it? Who will get who's the inspector general out of Utah? No, that's only 7 letters. Television shows. Bingo. Huber. What's his first name? He's got 8 letters in his name. Durham. Nice, he says. Durham. That's only 6 letters. But I seem to remember Huber had 8 letters in his name, first and last name. But the word is he's got like 400 prosecutors. Or attorneys at his disposal. Robert Huber. Oh. So Bob Huber is 6 letters. 8 letters. Hi, Prototype. How you doing? But neither one of them, Huber or Horowitz, got fired. And they've been mentioned many times in the 17th letter. But you know what I liked? I liked when Marco Rubio was talking about someone being named as a special manager, or I said many times that the president can appoint a special officer. Okay? Yeah, Devin Nunes is running truth. That's right, boy. Did you hear him say that? Who was he referring to? Who was appointed as a special officer? And how many letters does that name have? Eight's the magic number. Dun 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 boom boom. Elon Musk. Is that 8 letters? Marco Rubio said yesterday Trump appointed him a special officer. Isn't that something? Is he the Punisher? Is he the B-2 bomber? Stealth. Because he came right in like a stealth bomber. They didn't see him coming at USAIDs. They didn't see him locking down their computers, shutting down their building, running them all off. Eight letters, special officer. I've been saying for 2 years. I said Mike Lindell could have been a special officer for, doesn't have to be the stealth bomber, but to conduct certain operations. Jeff Sessions, even after him leaving the Justice Department, so it all fits together very nicely because they've been some booms from a stealth bomber this week. Pain is coming. Thousands of people are being recalled from overseas that have been doing nothing but pissing away our money, organizing color revolutions in other countries, infiltrating people's cultures, politics, destroying families, giving foreign aid in exchange for introducing same-sex marriage and transgenderism. A lot of them have refused, like Nigeria. I played the president's response to Obama. Keep your money. We don't want men going in women's bathrooms, to Obama's face. Bukele came out and said foreign aid is more trouble than it's worth because all they do is fund opposition parties. It seldom goes to the people that need it for the purposes that's been described. It's been used to fund covert operations and opposition parties to overthrow governments. That's what Bukele said. And he also said, if you need prison space, I got it. I'll give you a good deal. 65,000 beds, which he's got a lot of them are about 40,000 of them taken up now, but he's got an extra 20, 25,000. We got 30,000 at Guantanamo Bay. A lot of that's going to be needed for these fugitives and illegal aliens. Another thump upside the head came to the cabal when Trump signed an executive order doing away with birthright citizenship. There is a weak attempt to overthrow it, but the prevailing argument is that Trump is right again. What is that going to do? We can weed them out. If we got somebody that was unlawfully granted citizenship, but they're productive, successful, served in the military, whatever, they can get a special dispensation. If they've been a ne'er-do-well, didn't graduate from college or high school, unemployed, dealing in drugs, got a criminal record, you're out of here. So we've got to use discernment, and we have to show mercy, benevolence. We want people in this country that are going to swear allegiance to this country and be a benefit to this country. That brings me to what do we do with these characters like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib? Born in another country, as adults, obtained citizenship and swore allegiance to this country and have been agitating for tearing down our Constitution. Were they participants in these criminal acts we're talking about? Misappropriation of funds? Harboring fugitives? As I've said, if you're a naturalized citizen and you get citizenship and then break the law, violate your oath, you can be stripped of that citizenship. So we can't be vindictive. We can't be like that creator I was talking about, inciting people to go around and do citizens arrests and Luigi somebody. We got to take the high road. It's the only road to take. The only road we had choice we have. Because we got to get this just right. So, I think the rest of this week, Trump will continue to put forward things that are going to keep all the plates spinning, all the media off balance. People are going to be wanting to learn more. They're not going to get it from the regular old media. That's what I'm going to call them now, old media. I'm not going to call them fake news. I'm not going to call them what's some of the terms people use for them? Legacy media. It's the old media. They're going to start coming to the new media, especially now that we can start speaking our minds. Now that the money is going to dry up for the lawfare and for the old media to continue to function, because Politico ain't going to get another nickel. I said that when I was talking about how I was following them. I don't see how they operate. But they always come out with the first talking point. What's next to come out? Who gave the order to do away with, I've heard 1 million chickens and I've heard 100 million chickens. Well, it was a lot of chickens. Somebody put out the order to destroy just before the Biden administration left. Who is responsible for these articles? I've got one that I got a screenshot of. Says that there is a new strain in guess what? Cows. Who says so? Was that going to be one of their orders? To get rid of 1 million or 10 million cows? What would that do to an economy? What would that do to a food supply? Then you force a bunch of tests with a bunch of phony results to have everybody back to the old games that divided our culture and our society and provided the opportunity for the second biggest crime, which was 2020. Was that all in the works? Are they going to try to do it now? Oh, no, wait a minute. Trump got away from the WHO. Trump got away from these UN programs. Did you all hear the latest thing he did? It was with a certain group that yeah, I'm back. My screen went blank. I'm back. Y'all hear me? Jiminy crickets. Well, I hope y'all can hear me, because I want to tell you what he did. And let me know if you all heard about it too first, before I say anything. What did Trump do? Which group has he disassociated with and is putting sanctions on? Which group? Can you all hear me? Oh, Roland says 5x5. All right, my question is, which group has he placed sanctions on and is going to seek prosecution? Something else Pam Bondi is going to be working on, and it's big. Nobody reported on it. See if anybody guesses it. NGOs, CDC, WHO, MSN. Nope. I'll give you a hint. It's got to do with Jack Smith. Jack Smith. Well, it's all good guesses. Epstein list, UN human rights, the bar, AG. Whoops. Angela got it. The ICC. And Roland gets it next, and Pappy Two Bears. Angela. Television show says overseas courts. He's put a sanctions on the International Criminal Court, and they're going to be seeking prosecution for abuses by the International Criminal Court. Let me find that little article on it. Trump will sign an order imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court for persecuting the United States and its allies, such as Israel. The White House spokesman said the decree will introduce financial and visa sanctions for ICC staff and their family members. They probably do wear purple robes, Jess and Mean. Purple revolution, color revolution. And the other thing that's come out that's not being talked about yet is that these radio stations that were bought up by Georgie Sorosio has also been given money by USAIDs. Remember when he pretty much cornered the market on these available radio stations? I think they're going to extradite Jack Smith, Roland. So it's all good news for us, bad news for them. Did you know that the bishop, so-called bishop, that was acting in such a disgraceful manner in church, you remember that thing, got $53 million. $53 million bucks of government money? That hadn't hit the papers yet. They're going to ignore it. The news is just going to ignore it. Oh, yeah. What is it called? Catholic Charities is cut way back. Politico's cut back. These radio stations Soros bought, their money's cut off, but they've already been paid for the first quarter. I hope that money gets recaptured. What did Engoron call that when he was trying to screw over Trump? Disgorgement. I'd use their own terms against them. We're going to have you disgorge our money back. The Pope can afford it. I said a long time ago, I'm a Roman Catholic. That's how I was raised. That's what I was born into a Roman Catholic family. I respect the church, but right is right and wrong is wrong. And what did Christ say? Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. And Trump's playing Caesar right now, and you took our money. We want it back. And you sure in the heck ain't going to get any more. So, we covered a lot of ground, didn't we, folks? Well, Lori, we know we were told a long time ago, back in the late 60s, I think it was Pope Pius, said that Satan's smoke had infiltrated the Vatican. We had to air it out, get that smoke out. Yeah, well, it's all getting cut off now, Todd. But you know, you put that backdrop, we're talking billions of dollars. And you put that backdrop of what happened in North Carolina, what happened in Maui, what happened in, even though a lot of them were wealthy, a lot of people were average citizens, lost their homes. A big setup, okay? Have they got this thing boiled down to a criminal conspiracy? Tied in. I'm talking the fires. I'm talking the embezzlement. I'm talking the illegal psychological warfare campaigns. I'm talking about election interference. Are they going to put this thing in a big ball of wax and tie it all together into a RICO, international RICO case? And one thing Rudy Giuliani brought up that I've discussed in the past and was first echoed by General Flynn. We use civilian forces first. The military is only of military necessity. We don't bring troops into civilian matters to handle riots. We don't bring troops in to round up illegals. We don't bring troops in to arrest these nefarious individuals unless it's militarily necessary. That is the first law of war. Actions taken have to be of necessity. But if we have Tom Homans, we've got Grady Judds, we've got a whole lot of people that know what they're doing in civilian law enforcement, and we also have the National Guard, the Marines, and the Coast Guard. But Rudy pointed out something very important. You're trained to end somebody, okay? When you're trained for combat, you don't, this is how you put the handcuffs on. Here's your laminated card where you read them, they're right. No, they don't have that kind of training. When you use your nightstick, be careful not to go above the neck, and you can only hit them on the sides of the legs or the buttocks. No, they don't have that kind of training. It's KILL or capture, preferably the first. And if you have to, the second. So you can't put people with conflicted training into civilian situations. That time, General Flynn got booed. Somebody said, when are you going to bring in the military? This was when Trump was out of office for a year. Flynn said, no, we're not going to. Boo, boo. He said, because it's not needed. It's not necessary. And he was right. Because that starts a precedence where you won't know from one weekend to the next what kind of government you're going to have, or if you're going to have troops in the street. You want law enforcement mechanisms that are closest to the people conducting operations. Elected sheriffs, okay? Local police officers coordinating with people like Tom Homan and ICE. You may have a military governorship if a governor gets out of line, has to be replaced, which almost happened with George Wallace. Okay, remember that? When Kennedy sent, I think it was the 82nd Airborne. Because George Wallace was standing in the doorway of his school and would not go with integration, defying Kennedy's orders. And as governor of Alabama, he ordered all his state police and sheriffs to stay out of it. So the only enforcement mechanism Kennedy was left with was the military. And if he had not stepped out of the way, he would have been taken into custody and Alabama would have been run by a military governorship. But he stepped out of the way. It's got to be used judiciously. Force of arms has to be used judiciously. And especially at this moment in time. We're in a moment of time. I've said the Revolutionary War was not a weekend in 1776. It was a 7-year war. Seven years. But we have been at it going on. This is our 9th year. 4 years of Trump, 4 years of Biden, and now we're going into the 9th year. We're coming to the moment. Our Yorktown is coming. Pope Paul VI. Yeah, it might have been the Black Mass. There was stories about it. Stories are stories. Pope John Paul II is was the Pope that was part of the Iron Triumvirate of Reagan, Thatcher, Margaret Thatcher, and John Paul II. All right, folks. Well, that's an exciting thought about the 8 letters for Elon Musk, a stealth bomber. Is this the moment of the stealth bomber? 8 letters. And is Huber, that's the names we got to look for next. Working with Pam Bondi. Horowitz, Huber, Pam Bondi, they all got 8 letters in their name. All of them do. And Elon Musk. But when you start seeing, maybe it will be what Roland mentioned earlier, might pop up out of the woodwork, Durham. John Durham. So, anyway. All right, folks, I'm going to be going live again tomorrow night. I appreciate you all putting up with me, coming up late, not having a thumbnail. I don't know what caused my stream to break down before I even came up. I had to redo my whole studio and go live on the fly with no thumbnail or nothing. So, and I don't know what, maybe my screen go black, but earlier. Anyway, that's fine. We'll keep on rolling. And in the future, if somebody puts something inappropriate, I'm not going to have a little fit like I did the other night and get myself upset. It's just whenever somebody's comment disappears, it means they put something wrong in there, and they need to think before they type. So no more me blowing a cork. All right, folks? So once again, if you're not subscribed, why don't you jump in? The water's fine. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Definitely give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And remember, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. And I will be seeing you probably tomorrow night. Thank you for spending your precious time with me. I'll be seeing you soon. This is Mountain Man, over and out.